The years between primary school and senior high school can be a difficult time for students facing the onset of adolescence. Years 8 and 9 have traditionally been known as a time when young people can disengage. The Northern Territory has the extra challenges of remoteness, a transient population and a high proportion of Indigenous students for whom English is a second language. 5 years ago, the Territory introduced middle schools in an overhaul of secondary education. It's an approach that's gaining ground around Australia, but there's debate about the success of middle schools in the Territory. Alison Middleton reports.
Today's lesson, we're going to be making red cabbage indicator.
It's a science lesson for these Year 9 students at Darwin Middle School and an experiment in the laboratory.
It's pretty fun, but you have to write down a lot of notes, so it kind of sucks.
Just how stuff reacts, and I like explosions and all that.
While life after school is still a long way off, the students are already making plans for the future.
Yeah, I want to finish year 12 and become a diesel mechanic. My uncle does the same thing and he works out in the mines and gets a lot of money as well.
I'd like to be an engineer. I just like with bridges and buildings and all that stuff.
These students are at the centre of a big experiment in education in the Northern Territory, the middle school system. A series of dedicated campuses for years 7, 8 and 9 designed to smooth the transition from primary years to senior high school.
We have a generation of youth who have gone through this experiment, this failed experiment, we believe, and ultimately they will be the ones who will pay the price.
It's unkind to say it's a failed experiment. I think there are positives in there and I want to build on those positives.
Middle schools were introduced in the Northern Territory 5 years ago. They were the result of a review of secondary education that found Territory students were lagging behind their interstate counterparts.
Middle schools were set up in the Northern Territory in an attempt to re-engage adolescent kids who seemingly were not achieving literacy and numeracy benchmarks, who were becoming disengaged through those adolescent years.
They're starting to explore their own identity and boundaries, so that's why it's critical for us in the middle years to really have a strong focus on making sure that we're engaging our students.
At Sanderson Middle School, there's a strong emphasis on pastoral care. Students' emotional well-being is as important as academic success.
It's about when the kids are here that they're supported, that they're nurtured and that they're meeting the educational outcomes that are required of them.
I want to make sure I do all my work so I can go on trips with the boys.
Here at Sanderson, sport keeps students engaged and builds their confidence. A condition of taking part in the Clontarf Football Academy is doing well in the classroom.
Be nice to the teachers and students, like classmates. Make sure you get all your work finished, homework finished, and just do everything in class.
Rubies on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Rubies! A separate girls' academy also keeps students motivated.
It's actually helped me and bring me into school more because of the fun activities and how it's lifted me up, helped me with my homework and after school and stuff.
The academy is really good. It really helps me with a lot of stuff. It's made a really big difference in my life. I want to come to school instead of just staying home and stuff.
In places like America, there's now some longitudinal research studies that demonstrate that where you actually put in place all of those middle schooling practices and compare it with other schools that just have the structures, that there are massive differences in the outcomes for young people.
Education experts think middle schools are Australia's future. They say a study in Queensland has shown middle schooling is improving students' education.
In those classrooms which had middle schooling practices in place, the actual teaching that was taking place was more challenging, more engaging, more connected to the young learners and provided opportunities for them to extend themselves.
But the Education Union argues the new approach in the Territory is failing. While it supports the idea of middle schools, it says too much money was spent on infrastructure and not enough on teacher training.
There certainly has not been any improvement that we can see in literacy and numeracy benchmarks. There doesn't seem to be any change occurring in some of these middle schools in relation to how these kids are taught, the pedagogy or the curriculum delivery.
If that's their view, then that needs to be taken very seriously, because one of the aims of the middle school 7 to 9 was to make sure that the students had a sufficient and appropriate level of literacy and numeracy to take them on to Year 10.
Around Australia, students from Year 3 on are tested annually in reading, writing and numeracy. The Territory Government argues these NAPLAN tests show middle schools are working.
There are positives in the NAPLAN results. If you're looking at the cohorts that have been successively tested from Year 7 to Year 9, they're demonstrating amongst the highest level of improvement of anywhere else in Australia.
The government says the main indication of success is the number of students finishing Year 12.
In the last year, I think we've had record numbers of people getting their Northern Territory Certificate of Education and Training, and certainly increases in the number of kids who are going through their schooling and completing Year 12. So overall, it was about 20% increase, and certainly amongst Indigenous students, a 45% increase.
The government says the middle school system will be reviewed next year. The Education Union says it's not too late to fix the problems it sees in the sector.
Clearly it comes down to budgetary issues, how much money the government and the department is prepared to spend, and have they a real commitment to improving adolescent outcomes. If they have that, then certainly it's not too late to improve and show that these schools can be great successes.
For these middle school students, finishing Year 12 is the next goal. The Northern Territory Government hopes that will be the aspiration of an increasing number of their peers.
I'm applying for boarding school this year to go down to Adelaide, and I really hope I get accepted stuff to really help my future.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping to finish school and become a professional football player and play for the Geelong Cats. My plans are for the future to finish grade 12 and then finish uni and then join the army. It's getting heaps of money and making my family proud.
Alison Middleton reporting.